An Arab Palestine is a threat to Great Britain and a menace to the world. A Jewish Palestine is an asset to Great Britain and a blessing to the world.
From its inception, Israel began the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians living on the land given to them by the British Crown. The new Israelis used biological warfare by poisoning village wells, which was considered a war crime but ignored. In the early 1970s, Israel supplied weapons and intelligence to aid South Africa's apartheid movement in return for weapons-grade uranium. In 1982, thousands of Palestinians were executed in Israeli-run refugee camps, and the UN General Assembly labeled it an act of genocide. In 1994, Israel supplied weapons to support the Rwanda genocide, which murdered about 800,000 people. In 2006, Israel was accused of war crimes after deploying cluster bombs in civilian areas. Israel supplied weapons and training to South Sudanese forces during their civil war, where war crimes were rampant. Israel sold weapons to Myanmar's military during its 2017 Rohingya genocide. Meanwhile, British imperialism has been infiltrating Persia for over a century. In 1891, the Qajar dynasty sold Persia's entire tobacco industry to Britain for £15,000. In 1902, they sold exclusive oil rights to Britain, who then formed the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. In 1935, when Persia was renamed Iran, the name was changed to the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Iranian leadership had all the appearances of being vassals to the British Crown, until 1951, when Iran elected Mohammad Mossadegh as prime minister and voted to nationalize their oil. Time magazine called him the Iranian George Washington and Man of the Year, but the British view was that Iran had just stolen their biggest oil source. They organized an international boycott and began seizing tankers carrying Iranian oil. With the help of Alan Dulles and the CIA, British intelligence ran Operation Ajax. Mohammad Reza Shah was taken into protective custody by British intelligence and received cash from the CIA. After Mossadegh was overthrown in 1953, Mohammad Reza Shah was returned to Iran and put back in power, where he began forming alliances with Israeli businesses and the U.S. military. In 1954, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company became the British Petroleum Company, or BP, and Mohammad Reza Shah was seen as a puppet of the crown. But things changed. The Shah became critical of Israel after their 1967 war crimes, and by the 1970s, the Shah had initiated the formation of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and openly planned to terminate the 1954 Consortium Agreement, which provided Western oil companies 50% ownership of Iranian oil. The Shah officially gave an ultimatum that the Consortium Agreement would be terminated in 1979. But by 1979, the Iranian Revolution was led by the Ayatollah Khomeini, who was accused a year prior of being a British agent, and the 1954 Consortium Agreement was nullified by the Islamic Republic. This marked the end of Western control over Iran's oil and the beginning of Iran becoming public enemy number one in the West. After 9/11, Iran became the final target in the U.S. military's long series of destabilizing governments. They are now in the crosshairs, and Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince of the Pahlavi dynasty, puppet to the British crown and Zionist, is being sold to the people as a new leader. Greg Reese reporting.
All right, hello and welcome everyone. This is your host Doug Diamond here. Hope you guys are doing well on this first summer Sunday night. And hello and welcome. Glad you guys are all here. And Miss Emily saying, where is everyone tonight? I don't know. They're probably out enjoying their summer weather, is my guess. How about that Greg Reese report? I thought that was really, really good, and a really good history on the connection with Iran and Israel, and then, of course, how the British Royal Crown is really who was behind a lot of this stuff. And note, who is it exactly that has been in charge of the British Royal Crown since his investiture in 1969? King Charles. Now King Charles, of course, then it was Prince Charles. Since his investiture in 1969, King Charles has been in control of a lot of this stuff and in his family. So you can see how far back it really goes, and how I think personally it's a perfect fit for the soon-to-be biblical Antichrist arriving on the scene. I think he's here, and he's been here for a long, long time, many decades. In fact, most of his life. It's just that no one recognized him. So we will see, right? We will see. Hello and welcome, you guys. Glad you guys are here. It's 10:06 p.m. on June 22nd, 2025. This is Doug Diamond, your host for the next little while, and welcome to the Diamond Report Live. So let's take a look at some of the articles I have pulled up tonight. Several Hal Turner radio show headlines, just because he's really good with breaking news, so that's why I tend to lean towards what he's doing first and get the headlines kind of out of the way, and then we'll just report on other things as they come up as well. So, HalTurnerRadioShow.com, some of the articles he's got on his site at the moment. U.S. Fifth Fleet's evacuating headquarters in Bahrain. The headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet has evacuated its base in Bahrain. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, officially known as U.S. Naval Forces Central Command / U.S. Fifth Fleet, is a forward-deployed naval component of the U.S. Central Command. Its area of operations encompasses roughly 2.5 million square miles of water area in the Middle East, including the Arabian Gulf, the Red Sea, the Gulf of Oman, Gulf of Aden, Arabian Sea, and parts of the Indian Ocean. The headquarters and base is directly across the Persian Gulf from Iran, as shown in the regional map below. So you can see Bahrain right here. Here is Iran. Hal says, my fellow Americans need to stop for a moment and realize we went from Israel is doing this on their own, quote unquote, to we bombed Iran for the sake of peace, quote unquote, to regime change in Iran is good within 24 hours. Let that sink in. Yes. So needless to say, people who think that I have been fully backing Trump all along, I have been backing the good stuff that he's done, yes. I want to come out right now and say up front here that I do not support any of what is going on over there by the Trump administration and what they're doing. And remember, he ran on peace. He ran on that. He was elected to not only close the borders of the United States and eject all of the millions and millions and millions of people that the Biden administration let come in. And I do think he's done a good job with the border. It still remains to be seen as far as getting the illegals out, because they all have different social security numbers, and many of them, thousands and thousands of them, have the same social security numbers, and all their information is changing. It's hard to track these people down. I understand that. But I feel like he's doing a pretty good job on that front, and the economy type stuff I feel like is starting to pick up. But this war in the Middle East that we don't want any part of, personally, that I don't think the United States belongs in at all, this is really going bad quickly. And it's going to go, in my opinion, from bad to worse. Because this is going to very potentially tank our economy. If we have, say, $10 a gallon gasoline, not just paying more at the pump, but think about it. Everything that you go and buy at the stores, any stores, whether it's Amazon and you're having it shipped to you or your local grocery store, everything is trucked in. Everything that our economy uses oil. So oil is a major component of the American empire, the American economy. And if gas and oil prices are through the roof because of all of this stuff, which they have the real good potential of happening, that really could happen, and probably quickly, then it's going to put a really huge halt, a huge break on the economy, and it's very possible that things could go bad really quickly. So anyway, all that to say, I do not support what Trump is doing in the Middle East. I just want to make that very, very clear. And we'll talk more about that as we go tonight. But anyway, his first story here on HalTurnerRadioshow.com is the Fifth Fleets are evacuating headquarters in Bahrain. So that's pretty interesting. And speaking of oil prices, they are spiking as futures markets open. Oil prices spiked the moment the futures market opened. No idea where this will go as a result of the U.S. sneak attacking Iran last night. Whether the Strait of Hormuz remains open despite the Iranian parliament voting to close it, we talked about that last week, it is yet unknown. Brief closure earlier today seems to have been canceled. No one is really sure right now. If the strait does get closed, experts say the price for a barrel of oil will go from its present $75 per barrel upward of between $200 and $300 per barrel. That translates into gasoline at the pump at around $10 a gallon, which we mentioned this last week. None of us can afford that, and it would cripple the entire economy. So everything Trump has been doing, he's shot himself in the foot here if this happens. And then Hal's update from earlier tonight. Diesel futures gained as much as 7.8% so far tonight to hit the highest price since July last year, outpacing the move in crude. Gasoline gained 4.1% so far tonight. So we'll have to watch it. Keep watching, see what goes on. But if the Strait of Hormuz is indeed closed, that's going to change things pretty quickly. Another story he's got on his site, Flash, President of Iran resigns. So you don't normally see this guy, do you? The President of Iran, I'm not even sure how to pronounce his name. I won't even try. Has resigned. His letter of resignation sent to the Ayatollah has been translated from Persian into English, and the reason that he cites for leaving is extremely worrisome. Here is the original letter in Persian. So if you're brushed up on your Persian, there it is. You can read it very quickly. But here is the machine-translated text in English. For its king, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, to His Excellency Ayatollah Khamenei, Supreme Leader of the Islamic Revolution, I, as the President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, with great regret, and after much contemplation, hereby submit my resignation to you in light of the recent developments and the barbaric attacks of the Zionist regime against our Islamic homeland, as well as the joining of the world-devouring America to lead these attacks, and considering the official policies of the Islamic Republic which stem from the statements of the esteemed leader, the country has entered a path beyond my control and responsibility. Therefore, I do not see it in the best interest of the country and the nation to continue fulfilling my duties in this position. I will remain a small soldier in the system until my last breath, and I hope this decision will pave the way to reform, for the reform of affairs, the triumph of truth over falsehood, and the return of peace and tranquility to our beloved country. I pray to the Almighty God for you and the dear people of Iran for dignity, pride, and a good outcome, and I entrust my affair to God. Indeed, God is all-seeing of the servants. The President of Iran has resigned. So Hal's analysis here is saying the key phrase of the entire letter are these words: and considering the official policies of the Islamic Republic, which stems from the statements of the esteemed leader, the country has entered a path beyond my control and responsibility. So the president cannot continue given the official policies of the Islamic Republic and the dicey part, which stem from the statements of the esteemed leader. So there are apparently huge policy differences between the men. But the very worrisome, no, extremely worrisome words, according to Hal here, is the country has entered a path beyond my control and responsibility. He is saying that he had no part in the decisions that have apparently been made, and that they are beyond his control, and he wants no responsibility for them. That sounds to me like a fight to the literal death, according to what Hal's saying here. So, he has some further information here on some other intel that he has. So, feel free to look at that if you guys want. It's on Hal's website here, halturnerradioshow.com. It's free and open to the public. He does have some subscriber-only type of content on here, but of course I cannot show you that because it's not mine to show. However, this is the free and open stuff here on his site, so you can go there at any point. But don't leave yet. We have lots to look at tonight. Update, 1:15 p.m. closed. The Iranian parliament votes to close the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this was earlier today, which I already mentioned that they voted that way. The parliament of Iran voted unanimously this morning to close the Strait of Hormuz, which leads into and out of the Persian Gulf after the unprovoked American sneak attack upon Iranian nuclear program sites. The vote by the parliament must now be approved by Iran's Supreme National Security Council. So it's not a done deal quite yet. But the impact of the vote is already being seen. Oil tankers in the Persian Gulf are rushing to get out before the Iranians close the strait. Over 50 oil tanker vessels are rushing to exit the Persian Gulf this morning. So you can see here, the white area is the actual water. And you can see the boats here headed in and out. About 20% of the daily global oil and petrochemical supplies must transit through the strait every day. 20% of the global supply. That's quite a bit. Iran says it has a right to defend itself from the ongoing Israeli attacks and now also the additional attacks of war that were perpetrated by the United States last night. Bomb damage assessments are coming in from the U.S. attack, and they are interesting. Iran's main uranium enrichment facility at Fordow was the most difficult to attack because it is built deep under a mountain. Satellite imagery this morning shows penetration holes for at least 6 of the 12 30,000-pound bombs that the U.S. dropped. So here are some satellite imagery here. Here's 3, and here's 3. So interesting that is the weapon that they chose to use. They did not use the highly vaunted meteor guns. Have you guys heard about the meteor guns that will literally destroy entire mountain ranges? Yeah. The U.S. has had that for decades. Meteor guns. Look them up if you don't believe me. Anyway, here's further satellite photography here, and says Fordow's heart is still beating. Despite the drop of at least 6 of these massive ordnance penetrators, the imagery shows that the damage pattern skirts the outer shell of the site. Crater geometry and spacing are consistent with volley mode sequencing designed to minimize shock front overlap, but all visible penetrations hug the periphery, either due to miscued coordinates or deliberate decoying via the site's curved ADIT network. So interesting. So in other words, we don't really know what the damage is like. The U.S. is reporting that they completely destroyed it, but I'm not so sure, according to those pictures. So there's a lot of information here on this particular article on Hal's site. So if you guys want more info on the not only the Strait of Hormuz, but also the attack that the U.S. perpetrated last night, feel free to look at that. It probably has one of the better bits of information and those few satellite pictures as well on that article. Iran retaliating, missiles launched, impacts in Tel Aviv and Haifa. Iran has begun retaliating for the unprovoked attack that it suffered at the hands of the United States on Saturday night. Unprecedented missile movements are ongoing. As of 1 a.m. Eastern U.S. time, and ballistic missiles have been launched at Israel. As this story is written at 1 a.m. Eastern, this was early this morning, about 20 minutes ago, Iran launched ballistic missiles. Trajectory indicated the missiles headed for central and northern Israel. Missile attack warnings went out in Israel. Despite air defenses being launched by Israel, several missiles got through. There have been missile impacts in Tel Aviv and in Haifa. Reporting claims at least 5 direct hits in Tel Aviv. And then this is one missile impact in Tel Aviv as well that they're shown here. So, obviously, Tel Aviv is one of the main targets here from the Iranians. So if you are happen to be living in that part of the world, your new best friend, I guess, is your underground bunker. So because I know they're going there a lot these days, with the sirens wailing and the people flooding to their bunkers as quickly as possible, and the missiles flying. So I think it's probably only going to get worse, unfortunately. Then this is the original story from last night on his site. United States attacks Iran. United States of America has just launched military attacks against 3 nuclear sites in the Islamic Republic of Iran. President Trump will address the nation at 10 p.m. I don't know if you guys saw that. I saw it. It was very brief. And he had his guys who, I guess you could call him his brain trust, right behind him, J.D. Vance and a couple of the other guys right behind him. And I don't know. I didn't buy it. I personally don't think this was necessary. And, of course, he's just doing the bidding of Bibi Netanyahu at this point. I think we all realize that, or at least most of us do. Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz have heated debate on U.S. relationship to Israel and war with Iran. Did you guys see any of this? It's quite entertaining, the clips that I saw. I did not watch the whole thing. Tucker Carlson interviewed Republican Senator Ted Cruz about influence by the foreign government of Israel and the AIPAC lobby that has contributed $1.9 million to Cruz. Carlson said that Cruz should focus more on Americans in our country as the national debt is exploding, homelessness is increasing, drug abuse and overdose are on the rise, suicide's a problem, inflation is skyrocketing, and life expectancy is dropping. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu claimed that Iran was behind the 2 assassination attempts on Trump's life during the campaign. Cruz said that Netanyahu, quote, misspoke while making the claim about the culpability of Iran in the assassination attempts. Iran has hitmen who are trying to murder President Trump. However, Cruz failed to produce any evidence. Yes. I don't think any of us really buy that. No, it's the deep state that we're trying that. Not the Iranians. They just get the blame. The Iranians are the new Russians. So now it's not Russia quite as much. It still is because Russia still exists, so that will always be the case. But now it's Iran, I guess. Cruz supports regime change in Iran because he believes that he learned in Sunday school that those who bless Israel will be blessed. Tucker tried to pin him down on whether the biblical passage referred to Netanyahu and the current modern government of Israel. Cruz said that despite the failures of the U.S. toppling the regimes in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya, regime change in Iran would be different because the Ayatollah is, quote, a religious zealot. Yeah. He said the Ayatollah is a particularly dangerous kind of lunatic because he's driven by religious fervor when he says, quote, death to America and death to Israel, and then there is a very real possibility Iran would use a nuclear weapon. Well, they've had one for quite some time. Have they used it yet? No, I don't think so. Has Israel used a nuclear weapon yet? Do they have a secret nuke program that they're not letting the people come in and take a look at? Yes. Have they used a nuke? Yes, they have. They used one in Syria just a few months ago, and it was completely shut out of the mainstream media. The radiation levels speak for themselves. They used a tactical nuke just a few months ago in Syria, and we did a show on that. So it does exist. They have the nukes. They've used it, and they are the oppressors here, not Iran. Not that I'm for Iran. I don't like Iran either. But the point is, they have not been causing the issues Israel has. I've never seen Ted Cruz look this stupid. Yeah, he did look really, really bad in that interview. And just the clips that I saw. And it is embedded here if you guys want to watch it. It's also on Tucker's X account, of course, and website. So, yeah, it's worth a watch. And if you want a good laugh, I think Ted Cruz kind of hangs himself out to dry several times in that debate or article in that interview. Not good, but it was pretty funny, actually. I personally don't really care for Ted Cruz. And then Supreme Court upholds Tennessee ban on transgender treatment for minors. So this is something that was, I think, happening here in Nashville. I remember when this came about not too long ago. Supreme Court upheld Tennessee's ban on transgender puberty blockers and hormone therapy treatments for minors in a 6-3 decision in a major win for 25 more U.S. states that have similar laws on the books. Chief Justice Roberts, who authored the majority opinion, wrote, "This case carries with it the weight of fierce scientific and policy debates about the safety, efficacy, and propriety of medical treatments in an evolving field." I don't think I would call it that. He added that the Supreme Court concluded that the ban does not violate the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause and wrote, "We leave questions regarding its policy to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process." More than 1.6 million Americans ages 13 and older identify as transgender. 1.6 million Americans. You think that's propaganda? I definitely do. Yeah, anyway, so Supreme Court upholds Tennessee ban. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And good news, I suppose, overall. FBI documents allege Chinese plot to interfere in the 2020 election via mail-in voting, something that we've been talking about for a long time. FBI Director Kash Patel has turned over a batch of internal documents to Congress detailing allegations that Chinese operatives sought to interfere in the 2020 election. They sought to interfere in the 2020 election by mass-producing fake U.S. driver's licenses to facilitate fraudulent mail-in voting to favor Joe Biden. U.S. Customs and Border Protection reportedly seized nearly 20,000 fake licenses around August of 2020, coinciding with when federal authorities first became aware of the threat. However, the FBI intelligence reports were later recalled under unclear circumstances. Newsmax reported that in 2020, Trump won all 50 states in in-person voting, and Biden won all states in mail-in ballots because of the fraud. And that was very similar in 2024 with Kamala, where they didn't require voter ID. She won those states. And I will use that term very loosely. She won those states. Anyway, yeah, obviously, the Chinese were meddling in the 2020 election, kind of a done deal. That's not all they did. It wasn't just driver's licenses related, but actual printing of the ballots. And they were brought in by the boatloads into the various and sundry cities in order to shift the vote counts in those cities in Biden's favor, and it worked. So, anyway, that's on needtoknow.news. And then one more here. Trump threatens Iran as it prepares to hit U.S. regional bases with missiles if Trump joins in on the war. Trump 79 issued a threat on Monday and ordered the entire population of Tehran, did you guys know about this? 10 million people to immediately evacuate. He suggested that fighting a war with Iran for Israel is the definition of America first. Figure that one out. No, that would be Israel first. And is now losing much of his MAGA base who voted for him as the peace candidate, which is what I've been saying for a long time at this point. So this article is dated June 18th, so it's a few days old now. But still relevant, I think. Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign, Trump said on Truth Social, ignoring that Israel attacked while negotiations were ongoing. What a shame and waste of human life, simply stated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. That's what Trump's post said. On Tuesday, Trump announced that we have taken complete and total control of the skies over Iran and threatened the Ayatollah with assassination and demanded unconditional surrender. Isn't that nice? So yes, the peace president strikes again. And yes, he's threatening war with Iran. And in fact, has now basically launched that war on behalf of Israel. Israel first. Right? Isn't that sweet? All right, let's keep moving here. Technocracy.news, OpenAI scores $200 million military contract. And I know you're shocked, just like I am. First, the tech bros invaded Washington, D.C. to become the guardians of our national data. Now they are taking over the military and weapon systems. High-ranking executives at Meta and Palantir have even accepted high-ranking commissions with the U.S. Army. Soon, all branches of the military will be awash with AI systems capable of targeting and killing. What could go wrong? Wow. So just so you guys know, and we don't really know how much it's already been implemented, but this, I think, will be the big step here. San Francisco-based OpenAI has won a $200 million one-year contract to put generative artificial intelligence to work for the military, U.S. Department of Defense announced on Monday. Under this award, the performer will develop prototype frontier AI capabilities to address critical national security challenges in both warfighting and enterprise domains, the Defense Department said. AFP reports the Defense Department pilot program is the first partnership under the Startups Initiative to put AI to work in governments. All use of AI for the military will be consistent with OpenAI usage guidelines, according to the startup. It comes as other countries have already started moving on the principle of wedding AI to military adaptations, which I think China's been involved in for a long time. Google's China-based AI Manhattan project with military applications should be investigated by the FBI and the CIA, said Peter Thiel, according to Breitbart here. So anyway, yeah. So here comes the infiltration, I guess, officially of OpenAI and just AI in general, artificial intelligence, into the U.S. military. As if it, they probably already had that to some degree, but I guess it's another big step here. So that's not good. All right, and then Liberty Beacon articles I pulled up. Iranian parliament backs Strait of Hormuz closure. Market braces for turmoil, which is something we touched on a little bit ago, but this is a Tyler Durden article here from Zero Hedge, but it's been reposted on the Liberty Beacon. So Parliament has reached the conclusion that the Strait of Hormuz should be closed, but the final decision in this regard lies with the Supreme National Security Council. So my guess is that will also be an affirmative, just a guess. I don't really know exactly how they're going to close it. I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but some people have talked about they may sink some ships there, scuttle some ships, and actually block it and then guard it with weaponry. It's possible that this article talks about how they would do that. It says if the Ayatollah approves the proposed closure of the critical maritime choke point, through which approximately 30% of the global seaborne oil and 20% of LNG, liquid natural gas, transit, Brent crude and natural gas futures will surge sharply this evening. The Strait of Hormuz, about a fifth of the world's oil passes through the strait daily. Yeah, so we mentioned that earlier, about 20%. So here it is. Strait of Hormuz is that little choke point right there. So I'm not really sure. I haven't really seen anything that shows how wide that is. We can figure that out pretty quickly, but that it's not looking good, is it? Anyway, this is talking about the markets and kind of what's going on there. That's a Zero Hedge article embedded here on the Liberty Beacon. Pretty interesting. And then Vance, Rubio say regime change is not the goal with Iran. Well, they might say that, or they may have said that, but now that's the official policy of the U.S. government. Regime change is the goal now. So they've gone from no, it's not, to yes, it is, just in a matter of hours. Following Trump's new foreign entanglement, bombing Iranian nuclear facilities, which may or may not have taken them out, while causing a deep divide amongst MAGA, Vice President J.D. Vance says he believes their nuclear program has been set back many years, and that he feels very confident that we've substantially delayed Iran's development of a nuclear weapon, adding that it was U.S. intelligence, not Israeli intelligence assessments that led to Trump's decision. Yeah, right. We believe that one, don't we? Good one. Yeah. And then, of course, Iran's saying, no, we moved all of this stuff ahead of time. You guys just hit the empty bunkers. That's what they were saying. I tend to probably think that might be true, actually. Who knows? Of course, if they really got hit hard, they wouldn't really admit it. So I don't know. It's hard to say. When asked if the United States is at war with Iran, he claimed, no, Kristen, we're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program. And called on Iranians to give peace a chance. Yeah, I think John Lennon would approve, wouldn't he? They can go down the path of peace, or they can go down the path of this ridiculous brinkmanship of funding terrorism or of trying to build a nuclear weapon, and that's just not something the United States can accept, he says. So that is the official policy. At this time, it says we do not want regime change. But that is what Israel has wanted the whole time, is regime change. Meaning they want to put in their own puppet government and control what Iran is and does. When they say regime change, they don't just mean put in some nice guys that they can work with. No, they mean take it over themselves. That's what they mean. That's regime change. Anyway, this is a little bit longer article, so feel free to look at this if you guys want. It's got embedded videos and things in it that might be worth a look. And then one more Liberty Beacon article. American warplanes and submarines launch attacks on nuclear facilities in Iran. Yeah, did you know submarines were involved? Early Sunday, American warplanes and submarines launched attacks on 3 critical nuclear facilities in Iran, marking a direct involvement of the U.S. military in Israel's conflict and raising concerns that these strikes might trigger further escalations in the Middle East. Operation Midnight Hammer was executed by U.S. B-2 stealth bombers, as reported by U.S. official referenced in the New York Times. Bunker buster munitions were deployed. Yeah, so it's the stealth planes. Here is the Trump statement on all that after it had happened. So if you guys, I think this is pretty short. I guess we could, most of you guys probably didn't hear this, so I'm going to go ahead and subject you to it, and I hope you don't mind. So let's see what he has to say.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So there you go. That was kind of awkward at the end, wasn't it? A little weird. But, yeah. So I guess, one thing that came to mind for me at least was the old saying that ignorance is strength and war is peace and freedom is slavery. So, from 1984. I don't know, seems applicable somehow, doesn't it? And he calls Iran the bully of the Middle East. Iran. Mm-hmm. No, I think that's probably not Iran. I think it's most likely Israel. Who is it that's starting all of these wars? Is it Iran starting all the wars over there? And bombing countries who don't want to be conquered? Is that Iran doing that? No. And again, don't mistake what I'm saying here. I don't support Iran, but they are not the bullies here. It's Israel and the U.S. That's the bullies. All right. Well, anyways, thought that was kind of interesting. And this talks further here about Operation Midnight Hammer, which he's very proud of, as you can see. So there's quite a bit of info on this article and embedded tweets and so forth. So feel free to look at that. And then let's see here. Iran says that they moved the enriched uranium and nuclear material in advance. The 3 sites were previously evacuated and empty. It could be bluster, but that is their first public statement. So that was what was said as soon as all of this bombing happened last night. So who knows? Someone here is most likely lying. I would tend to think that it's probably the United States, but I don't know. Iran may have lost some of their materials here and don't want to admit it, but they probably also knew it was coming to some degree, I'm thinking. And if you go through and read any of these comments on this particular post, it's about 50-50. There's a lot of people saying that there's no way that they didn't get attacked. Oh, look, even Marsha Brady's chiming in here. There's no way that they didn't lose their materials in the attack, or there's other people that are saying that there's no way that they did. So it's about 50-50 here as far as that goes. You can see some of these people that have the Israeli flag in their bio, in their little profile, that kind of know where they're going with it, I guess. Yeah, the definition of sponsor of terror is rather subjective, isn't it? Susan says. Yes, it is. Definitely. But anyway, that was what POTUS Trump had to say about the whole thing, and I think it's bad news. I think we are headed in a really bad direction at this point. Alex Jones urges President Trump to pause, think, and avoid escalating war with Iran. This is on War Room, Steve Bannon's warroom.org. In a fiery and urgent Friday segment on the War Room, now this was before the bombing happened, of course, Steve Bannon hosted Alex to dissect the complex geopolitical tensions surrounding Iran and the potential for U.S. military action. The conversation revealed deep concerns about a looming crisis. It featured a strong message from Jones directed at Trump: slow down, gather full intelligence, and avoid rushing into a catastrophic war. So it's a really good interview. I've actually heard this, and they cover a lot of ground here. He's just trying to talk some sense into him. Obviously, Jones has been very supportive of Trump, but he is not supportive of this whole war thing and never has been in favor of any kind of wars. So it's a really good discussion, and Steve Bannon is also on that same side. So feel free to listen to this and check it out if you guys want to. But I think that it's very common sense, and unfortunately, Trump ignored all of it and went with whatever fake intelligence information he had, or slanted intelligence information he had, or most likely Israeli intelligence that he had via the CIA and so forth. So I don't know. I tend to think that this whole thing is a gotcha type of thing from Bibi. Don't you guys? Now, this is on Daily Mail. Defiant Iran boasts all of its nuclear material is in a safe place after Trump dramatically backed down on the war. Now, this was a couple days ago before all this happened. So this is kind of what I was saying. I feel like they knew something was coming. They should know not to trust anything out of the mouths of the United States and Israel. They should know that by now. So when Trump's talking peace, you would think they would at least know to protect the stuff that they've got. They've had nukes, they've had nuclear material apparently for quite some time. They may have bought it, purchased it either in part or in full from North Korea or other places. They could have obtained it. It's not really that new technology, and obviously, Israel's had it for many decades at this point. But then again, you're not supposed to know that, are you? Because they won't let anyone inspect anything over there. Defiant Iran taunted Trump last night by boasting that all of its nuclear material had been moved to a safe place after the U.S. president dramatically backed down from the brink of war. And then, of course, he stepped it up the next day. It says that all of these locations were already evacuated. So it is kind of interesting. If they're telling the truth, then basically these B-2 bombers were destroying these underground systems that they had in place here, and they were effectively empty, which, who knows? So there's quite a bit here, actually, on this Daily Mail article. So feel free to look at this if you guys want. This is got ongoing info about what's going on in Israel as well, where Tel Aviv's being hit too. So, okay. Revolver.news. Got a few articles from that site. Bannon calls for an investigation into Fox News. Are they acting as a foreign agent? What do you think? Steve, I think you're exactly right. Steve is asking a bombshell question. Is Fox News pushing regime change propaganda on behalf of foreign governments, specifically Israel's powerful AIPAC lobby? Did the sun come up today? Do bears do you-know-what in the woods? Does AIPAC in Israel control Fox News? Of course, AIPAC and Israel literally run Fox News. You can tell by all the hosts. All you have to do is watch it for like 2 minutes and you'll know. Anyway, thought that was kind of interesting that Bannon is calling them out, so that's good. All right, now this is a follow-up on the Austin Metcalf story, and the world is so crazy right now that I actually knew that I recognized the guy's name, but I forgot what the story was when I saw Austin Metcalf. I'm like, where do I know that name? So this is the news cycle we're in that I've already forgotten who poor Austin Metcalf was earlier when I was finding the news to talk about tonight. But it's this the young white kid here who was literally stabbed to death in the heart by this black kid. So new video footage blows up the self-defense lie in the Austin Metcalf brutal murder. So what's interesting about this is, I think I remember saying when this all happened that somebody somewhere had to have a camera roll, and there's always cameras in public places now. There just is. It's a fact of life. So lo and behold, guess what? There is camera footage. But what's funny to me is not funny, haha, but just ridiculous that we're supposed to believe this. The actual murder isn't caught on camera. No, not at all. But it's the moments before Anthony slaughtered Austin that tell the real story. And then they're talking about what happened in the camera footage that people have seen. So I don't know if this particular article is a Daily Mail story that's been posted here on revolver.news, some of it in amongst their commentary. So it seems to me like the whole thing probably was caught on camera. How could it not be? And perhaps Daily Mail just didn't have access to it. So anyway, if you guys don't remember what happened, it says it was supposed to be an ordinary high school track meet in Frisco, Texas. Kids stretching, coaches meandering around, and parents huddled under tents waiting for the rain to pass. But then, in the blink of an eye, it turned into a bloody murder scene, all because 17-year-old black kid named Carmelo Anthony brought a deadly weapon to a sports event and used it to stab 17-year-old Austin Metcalf to death. Yeah, as in like through the heart. You'd think that would be a clear-cut tragedy, right? Well, not if you're a left-winger in America. The second the story broke, the usual race hustlers and propaganda media swooped in to twist Carmelo Anthony into their latest civil rights martyr. They tried to turn this vicious teen thug into the next Rosa Parks. Their version was a noble black teen unfairly harassed by a racist white kid for daring to sit under the wrong tent, who was forced to defend himself from bigoted aggression. Yeah, that is how it was portrayed, actually. It was a typical ready-made narrative. Brave black Carmelo refused to give up his seat. Where have you heard that before? And the evil white Austin got what he deserved. Yeah, because didn't Rosa Parks stab her assailants too? Didn't she kill all of the people on the bus? Oh, that wasn't what happened? Oh, okay. Well, anyway, it says they spread it far and wide. Donations poured in by the hundreds of thousands. The mainstream press all but sainted the little thug who brought a deadly weapon to a school track meet. Who does that? Not an innocent victim, not some misunderstood hero. A menace to society does that. But now, right on cue, that carefully crafted defense story is falling apart at the seams, all thanks to chilling new surveillance footage that the Daily Mail got their hands on. The exclusive unreleased video shows exactly what happened in the moments before Austin was brutally murdered, and now we know that there was no threat to his personal safety, no chaos, no racist mob forcing Carmelo to stand his ground, which that was some of what was being reported. The video shows it was a calm scene until Anthony committed murder. So I was just talking about some of these steps here in what happened. As we mentioned earlier, Anthony is standing by his claim that the murder was, quote, self-defense. But the video tells an entirely different story. It says the footage reviewed by the Daily Mail at the Frisco Independent School District's headquarters shows no obvious physical confrontation between the two prior to the stabbing. The Daily Mail did not detect anything that indicated chaos was about to ensue. Strict guidelines were enforced for viewing the footage. Reporters were only permitted to take handwritten notes and were barred from capturing or republishing stills or clips. Okay. The district allowed the limited release because the students' identities are not easily discernible in the video, captured by a high-angle camera positioned near the press box and typically used for football broadcasts, and the footage shows the tent at the top of the left screen. Students are seen sitting idly beneath it, waiting for the competition to start. The actual murder isn't caught on camera. I say they edited it out, don't you? But it's the moments before Anthony slaughtered Austin that tell the real story. It says, then seemingly out of nowhere, it becomes apparent that the moment has happened when an armed Anthony attacked Metcalf. The stabbing itself is not visible on camera, but the reaction is immediate. Students are seen fleeing from under the tent. So maybe there were a lot of people around or something. It's hard to say. Right around the two of them. While police later confirmed Anthony fled the scene, he cannot be clearly identified in the footage. So that's strange with all the HD cameras and such these days. Moments later, at least two people can be seen carrying an injured Metcalf down the bleachers to a walkway at the bottom of the seating area. More individuals, including some adults, are seen rushing to his side to help. As rain begins to fall, Metcalf is visibly cradled in the arms of his twin brother, Hunter, bleeding heavily as they await emergency medical services. Wow. That is some story. But anyways, this goes on to say Austin didn't deserve to die. He was a good kid, a twin, a teammate, a son whose life was stolen in broad daylight by a delinquent thug who couldn't handle being told the word no. And right on cue, the left's spin machine kicked into high gear. They did what they always do. They twist a violent criminal into some cutesy folk hero, just like they did with George Floyd. A career criminal who once shoved a loaded gun into the belly of a pregnant woman and got canonized as a saint by the same media ghouls who now defend Carmelo Anthony. It says, but the footage doesn't lie. God willing, Austin's family will see real justice. And this twisted narrative will burn out like every other hoax they've tried to force down America's throats. So, wow. I just thought I would follow up on this. I thought it was pretty interesting that is coming out now. So, wow, let's hope that justice be done or the heavens fall.
Mr. Netanyahu has long wanted to fight Iran because that way he can stay in office forever and ever. I mean, he's been there most of the last 20 years.
America, this isn't a sideshow. This is the main event, as Israel and Iran lob missiles back and forth, resulting in at least 657 deaths and 2,037 injuries in Iran, while heavily fortified Israel reports 14 deaths and 390 injuries from Iranian actions. The damage already extends to critical infrastructure in Iran, including at least 2 major nuclear installations, among those the main enrichment facility at Natanz, with the potential for global economic disruption if Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, with oil prices and global markets hanging in the balance. Reports suggest that Iran's supreme leader, al-Khamenei, is hiding in an underground bunker in northeastern Tehran. The U.S. and Israel have been discussing the use of massive bunker-buster bombs, specifically the 30,000-pound variety, to target heavily fortified sites, like the Fordow Uranium Enrichment Facility, which is built into a mountain south of Tehran.
Fordows for enriching uranium. If they're really days away from having a bomb, then they already have the highly enriched uranium they need to build those devices. They're not spinning it in Fordow right now. So bomb the thing, blow it up, don't blow it up. That doesn't end their nuclear program. Their whole program is not in one room sitting under a mountain at Fordow. So, you know, I think the push for that is because we're the only guys that have the ordnance that can do that, and it's a mechanism for trying to suck us into a conflict. That doesn't even end the nuclear program.
Meanwhile, the United States, Russia, and China add to further escalation or the possible outcome of de-escalation. The situation remains fluid as propaganda is unleashed like a rabid dog in the night, while Biden's American sleeper cells wait patiently for the green light.
And they don't have to respond in a way that you are prepared for. They respond playing to their strengths and our weaknesses. That means the Gulf, that means our bases, that means our ships, that means our men and women. It also, by the way, potentially means on U.S. soil. It means wherever they choose, using their mechanisms that they have, which will be not conventional military force. They're not standing toe-to-toe with us in the battlefield.
The doomsday clock is being pushed to the brink of midnight.
But it's important to point out why Israel is carrying out all of these horrific crimes, and it's on behalf of the U.S. empire. This was spelled out very clearly in a plan that was published by several U.S. government officials for the Washington, D.C. based think tank, the Brookings Institution. In 2009, these U.S. government officials, these U.S. imperial planners, published a strategy paper titled "Which Path to Persia? Options for a New American Strategy Toward Iran." And chapter 5 is titled "Leave It to Bibi," that is Benjamin Netanyahu. So leave it to Netanyahu, allowing or encouraging an Israeli military strike on Iran. And this is what they said, quote, "The United States would encourage and perhaps even assist the Israelis in conducting the strikes themselves, in the expectation that both international criticism and Iranian retaliation would be deflected away from the United States and on to Israel." Netanyahu is an American. He was raised and educated in the U.S. He went to high school and college and got his first job in the U.S. He had U.S. citizenship twice, and he only gave up his U.S. citizenship in order to be Israel's prime minister. But he is an American, and what he's doing is serving the interests of the U.S. empire.
Exactly.
The historical context is crucial. Wolfowitz's 1992 predictions.
These are Arabs, 23 million of the most educated people in the Arab world, who are going to welcome us as liberators.
I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office that says we're going to attack
and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. I said 7 countries in 5 years. I said, is that a classified memo? He said, yes, sir. I was so stunned by this, I couldn't begin to talk about it. And I couldn't believe it would really be true, but that's actually what happened. These people took control of the policy in the United States. And I realized then, it came back to me, a 1991 meeting I had with Paul Wolfowitz. You know, in 2001, he was Deputy Secretary of Defense, but in 1991, he was the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. It's the number 3 position in the Pentagon. I said to Paul, I said, and this is 1991, I said, Mr. Secretary, you must be pretty happy with the performance of the troops in Desert Storm. And he said, well, yeah, he said, but not really. He said, because the truth is we should have gotten rid of Saddam Hussein, and we didn't. And this was just after the Shia uprising in March of '91, which we had provoked, and then we kept our troops on the sidelines and didn't intervene. And he said, but one thing we did learn, he said, we learned that we can use our military in the region, in the Middle East, and the Soviets won't stop us. He said, and we've got about 5 or 10 years to clean up those old Soviet client regimes, Syria, Iran, Iraq, before the next great superpower comes on to challenge us. This country was taken over by a group of people with a policy coup. Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld, and you could name a half dozen other collaborators from the Project for a New American Century. They wanted us to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, make it under our control. It went back to those comments in 1991. Now, did anybody ever tell you that? Was there a national dialogue on this? Did senators and congressmen stand up and denounce this plan? Was there a full-fledged American debate on it? Absolutely not. And there still isn't.
We have reached the end game. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
All right, how about that report? Thought that was a good one. PNAC, yeah, you remember that? PNAC stares down Armageddon. That was the name of that video. I thought that was really cool. It was really good info there, and lots of clips from folks that you've probably heard talk about there. Wesley Clark there at the end. That's a big one. I've heard him talk about the 7 countries in 5 years thing. Obviously, it took longer than 5 years. We're still in that 5-year phase, 20 or 25 years later. So anyways, yeah, so they are getting their war, aren't they? It appears that they are. Left-wing summer riot scheme laid out. Names, numbers, and receipts included. It's become as predictable as heat waves and mosquitoes. Every summer, the radical left finds a new excuse to unleash chaos on America's streets. It kicked off in full force with George Floyd's so-called Summer of Love, a blood-soaked, fiery spectacle that left cities burned to the ground, a trail of injured and dead bodies, and police departments damaged and demoralized. Yeah, and also unfunded, or at least underfunded. Since then, like clockwork, they've churned out one outrage after another, climate tantrums that block highways and ruin livelihoods, no king protests that vandalize statues and harass everyday Americans, and now, right on cue, they're rioting to protect illegals from ICE, turning U.S. neighborhoods into lawless war zones, all to keep America's borders wide open and the Dems' new illegal voting bloc intact. So, yep, that's certainly going on. Part of the reason. So, a couple videos embedded there. Meanwhile, the usual talking heads on cable news sit there with a straight face and tell the American people that white male Trump supporters are the, quote, real threat to their precious democracy. It's always a democracy, isn't it? Not only does the radical left whip up these mobs into a mouth-foaming frenzy, but they also bankroll them using your money. Yeah, and the Soros organizations do as well, but also use your money. Yes, you heard that right. They funnel taxpayer dollars through an endless web of shady nonprofits, activist groups, and lobbying arms, all feeding an army of scrawny street soldiers who riot, block traffic, assault police, and intimidate anyone who stands in their way. Well, I don't know that they're all scrawny, though. That's what this article says. Some of them are like 300-pounders. I've seen them. This latest riot fest out of Los Angeles proves this racket perfectly. The riots over the ICE raids were so bad that President Trump had to send out the National Guard. Of course, the left tried to fight having the National Guard restore law and order, which we know about that. And just like always, the propaganda press played their Baghdad Bob role, calling it mostly peaceful, while fires crackled and riot squads fought to regain control right behind them. So who's really behind the chaos, and how is your hard-earned tax money funding it? It says Tulsi knows. Watch, and here's a video clip here. Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI head here, says LA riots are funded and orchestrated, and she has the receipts as the Democrats deny the sixth day of war. But now we can break it down even further thanks to this exclusive post that lays out the entire scheme, names, numbers, and receipts included. Taxpayer-funded nonprofit behind the anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles. So here it is here. I won't read all this, but I'll just point you guys to this if you guys want to look at it. But it says, according to financial audit submitted to the state, CHIRLA organization received nearly $34 million in revenue from government contracts during the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023, with 96% of that funding from the state of California. That figure marks a sharp increase from the prior year when it received around $12 million in government contract revenue. Agencies contributing to CHIRLA's funding during this period includes the California Department of Social Security's, the California Arts Council, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, and the Department of Homeland Security. Notably, as mentioned above, the DHS contract funded CHIRLA to provide citizenship instructions and naturalization services. With $100,000 remaining on CHIRLA's contract, DHS froze the remaining funds in February. CHIRLA responded by suing. The court denied their motion for a preliminary injunction on May 29th. This is one of the two lawsuits CHIRLA filed against DHS this year. The other was dismissed for lack of standing and is on appeal. To sum up how this works, your tax dollars fund an organization, meaning CHIRLA, that organizes efforts to directly interfere with the federal government's lawful exercise of authority. Then, through its lobbying arm, that organization helps get Democrats elected to office, who then repay the favor by ensuring increased funding. This is the nonprofit industrial complex at work. Yeah. The NGOs and so forth. So here are the receipts, as they say. There's a lot here on this article if you guys want to check it out. Revolver.news. Pretty interesting story, and I thought that was pretty good that they're putting names and numbers together here with the receipts. Revolver.news. Again, we'll link to this in the Substack post that I send out on Friday. If you guys want to be on that list, that's a good way to get it. If you're not on the list, then you're on your own. You can find it yourself. All right, InfoWars article. American truckers unite, and they urge the Trump administration to ban foreign CDLs. What is a CDL? Well, that is a commercial driver's license. Amid series of highway crashes. So we keep talking about crashes. Mostly it's been plane crashes, I guess, lately. But as you guys know, lots of big rig semi-tractor trailers crashing as well, because you have, undocumented immigrants or illegals driving some of these trucks. Flood of unvetted foreign big rig drivers has created public safety nightmare. So that's part of the excuse I personally think that they're going to use for putting AI in control of these things, which we talked about, quite a few shows back at this point, where they have, at least in one area of Texas, they have driverless semi-trucks, literally robotic run, AI-driven semi-tractor trailers running down the highway with regular passenger cars with you and I just going down the road. And this is the, to me, that's the, problem, reaction, solution. This is the solution to get to the driverless semi stage. We're not there yet, but obviously it's being tested. It's being worked on right now. Well, this is the problem in the problem, reaction, solution. As the deadline for Trump's Executive Order 14286, titled Enforcing Common Sense Rules of the Road for America's Truck Drivers, looms, a powerful movement is gaining momentum in Washington to address a national security crisis in America's trucking industry. Again, they've created the problem here by letting all these illegals behind the wheel. Signed in April 2025, the order mandates stricter enforcement of road safety regulations. With time running out, American Truckers United has sent an urgent letter to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy demanding a ban on non-domicile commercial driver's licenses, CDLs, for non-citizens and restrictions on foreign CDLs to commercial trade zones. So they would only be able to drive in certain areas, I guess. American Truckers United delivered a letter to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy requesting support of our petition to ban non-domicile CDLs. So anyway, I don't know where this is going to go, but the letter exposes how illegal labor exploiting loopholes from Biden-era policies has flooded the industry with unvetted drivers. A recent Zero Hedge report highlighted how commercial driver's licenses were handed out like candy, creating a public safety nightmare. Yeah, you just show up and you get a driver's license and you get a driver's license and you get a driver's license. And they just throw these people behind the wheels of big rigs and wonder why we have all these wrecks now killing people on the roads. Yeah. Anyway, what a nightmare. This has been something that's been brewing for a while. Due to the Biden administration in particular. So, quite a few tweets and other videos embedded, and I guess some truckers and union folks talking about it. So, kind of interesting. I didn't know if you guys knew about all that, but I personally think that is the problem in problem reaction solution that we're going to see here. And of course, they want to get people out of their vehicles as quickly as possible. That goes for the truckers too, unfortunately. So, but of course, if oil is, $300 a barrel, then maybe a whole kind of a moot point anyway. All right, let's keep going here. MSN article I pulled up. I thought this was kind of funny just because it's so ridiculous. Pelosi raked in millions last year and her portfolio outperformed every large hedge fund with stunning returns. How does she know? She's not doing insider trading, though. She's just lucky. She's just that smart. She might be the she-wolf of Wall Street, this says. Rep. Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, California, raked in between, get this range. She raked in between 7.8 million and 42.5 million in 2024. That is quite a range. 7.8 million to 42 million. Meaning her estimated net worth with venture capitalist hubby Paul Pelosi, you remember him, the guy that was in the gay hammer attack about a year ago, could now top out at $413 million. New financial disclosures have showed. The staggering sum is an eye-popping jump from 2023 when financial disclosures showed that the couple's net worth topped out at a possible $370 million. So it was $370 million way back then, 2 years ago, and now it's $413 million. She's just that smart, folks. She's just that smart. The she-wolf of Wall Street, they're calling her. No, it's called insider trading. And that's what a lot of them are doing. Did you guys know, I don't know what it's called, you could look it up, but did you guys know that there's an app out there? I'm not into stocks and stock trading and all this stuff. I know literally nothing about it. But I do know there's an app out there that tracks what Pelosi and her organization does when it comes to trading stocks, so that you can follow automatically what her stocks are doing and do the same thing and also get rich. How about that? So you also would be getting in on the ground floor of the insider trading community there, just like Pelosi is. It's so crazy. Yeah, the she-wolf of Wall Street. Whatever. Pretty funny. All right, and then a couple headline USA articles. Iran's parliament votes to close Strait of Hormuz in response to the attack. Something we already covered a few times here, but thought I would point that article out if you guys want to look at it. HeadlineUSA.com. Billions of login credentials have been leaked online. Shocker, I know. Yes. It's impossible to tell how many people or accounts were actually exposed. So probably yours, probably mine. Here's what it says. Researchers at cybersecurity outlet Cyber News say that billions of login credentials have been leaked and compiled into datasets online, giving criminals unprecedented access to accounts that consumers use each day. According to a report published this week, Cyber News researchers have recently discovered 30 exposed datasets that each contain a vast amount of login information, amounting to a total of 16 billion compromised credentials. That includes usernames and user passwords for a range of popular platforms like Google, Facebook, and Apple. You guys use those companies' platforms? 16, well, if you're listening on YouTube, you do. Yes, that's a yes. 16 billion is roughly double the amount of people on Earth today, signaling that impacted consumers may have had credentials for more than one account leaked. Yes, by my math, that would be at least two accounts for everyone. Cyber News notes that there are most certainly duplicates in the data, so it's impossible to tell how many people or accounts were actually exposed. So, the data has been leaked yet again. Oops. Many questions remain about these leaked credentials, including whose hands that the login credentials are now in. But as data breaches become more and more common in today's world, yes, on purpose if you ask me, experts continue to stress the importance of maintaining key cyber hygiene. Do you have good cyber hygiene? If you're worried about your account data potentially being exposed in a recent breach, the first thing you can do is, repeat after me, change your password. Change your password. And avoid using the same or similar login credentials on multiple sites. I know lots and lots of people who do that. If you find it too hard to memorize all your different passwords, consider a password manager or a pass key. And also add multi-factor authentication, which can serve as a second layer of verification through your phone, email, or USB authenticator key. So this is part of my ongoing dilemma every single day because, as many of you guys know, I handle websites and multiple platforms for multiple people. So I have tons and tons and tons of logins that I'm always dealing with. I probably spend literally half of my life verifying who I am. I think I do at this point. The other half of my life, I'm getting ready for the first half. So, yeah, I probably do. I spend a lot of time just verifying who I am just to be able to log in. So, yes, you definitely want to have a password manager. That is the best way to, I think, handle everything. If you have a lot of logins like I do, I personally recommend, and they're not paying me to promote, but there's a really good, pretty cheap password manager program called RoboForm, and I use that myself. RoboForm is really good, so I would recommend RoboForm. You can look them up. That's the .com, roboform.com, I think. I want to say it's around $30 a year, something like that, but if you have tons of passwords, it's a really good way to effectively manage your passwords, and then you can, if you have a good password manager, you can have these really long passwords with multiple, capital letters and numbers and weird symbols and stuff like that in it and not have to worry about writing it down somewhere or trying to remember any of that stuff. I know I can't, So it's a really good way to do that. And then on top of that, it also has a password generator built into it. So if you don't want to come up with all of the random letters and numbers and stuff for a password, it will generate one for you. It will tell you if it's a strong password or a really strong password or a weak password or whatever, and then you can then apply it, go into your Google account, your Gmail account, go into your Apple account or whatever, and go in and change your password to some other longer string. And then, of course, yes, you can activate what they call multi-factor authentication, which is where you have to, you get the PIN that is text to your phone or something like that as well. So that is, to me, the best answer. And Susan's kind of nailed it here. Another push for Real ID, no doubt. That's exactly right. That's where they're wanting to go with this. That is why you're seeing so many data breaches and leaks from banks to the Social Security Administration to whatever. That's why you're seeing all these data breaches. They are being leaked on purpose to get us to Real ID, to get us to biometrics, to get us to take injectables so that it's all tied back to our global ID that we have, Real ID, or whatever they're going to call it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of become my life in a way. I have to deal with a lot of passwords and stuff, so I'm just trying to give you guys some good advice. Get a password manager. Get something that generates a good, solid, strong password. Don't use the same password in multiple websites. Just generate new ones. Have your program save it, and then you don't have to worry about it. Then when you go back to that website, say you're logged out, and you go back to that website to go use the website, you just click the little RoboForm button, and it detects what website you're on. You go to the sign-in page, and it fills it in for you, and you click login, and you're in. Boom. Just like that. It's actually really simple. I should be a salesperson for RoboForm. But there's others out there, other passkey management, utilities that you can get. And I would definitely recommend one. So doesn't matter which one you use. I would say go that route versus trying to, write it down on a piece of paper that you might lose or whatever. So it's definitely a good way to go, and just know that it's only going to get worse. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. That's on Headline USA. So anyway, let's keep going here. Information liberation, just some of these headlines. Trump plan to oust Thomas Massie mirrors that of Republican Jewish coalition. Yes, the Jewish coalition really wants to get rid of Massie, and therefore President Trump also wants to get rid of Thomas Massie. Why? Well, because he's opposing a lot of the stuff that Trump is for, and he doesn't take AIPAC money. Thomas Massie doesn't. How about that? President Trump's plan to oust Thomas Massie is an exact copy of the plan that the Republican Jewish coalition announced earlier this year, complete with the same pledge to spend unlimited money on defeating America's most beloved America First congressman. He's one of the very, very few, probably can count him on one hand, maybe one finger, fiscal conservatives in Congress. And they want to oust him because he doesn't take Jewish lobby money, AIPAC money. So, of course, they want to get rid of the guy, which tells me he's a good guy. One of the very few. Report, U.S. gave Iran advance notice of one-off strike on nuclear sites. The Trump administration tipped off Iran ahead of America's strikes on 3 nuclear sites and told them that it would be a one-off attack, according to a report from Amwaj Media. Who knows? I mean, that could be. That maybe that's why they got the nuclear materials out of harm's way. And basically the American empire just bombed empty facilities. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. That is a information liberation article here if you want to check it out. Trump bombs 3 Iranian nuclear sites, calls for peace. Yes, because war is peace. We know this. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. Name that book. Opponents of Israel are all Russian and Iranian bots, ADL-funded group says. Opponents of Israel are all Russian and Iranian bots. So you're only a bot, I guess, if you disagree with Israel. I don't think that's exactly right. And then this one, Ted Cruz reveals U.S. helping Israel carry out military strikes on Iran. Yeah, well, we kind of know that already. That was a few days ago now. So anyway, there's some information liberation headlines. Pretty good site. And then this is the video we played earlier. U.S. launches airstrikes on 3 Iranian nuke sites. That's on WNG.org. Social Security numbers may be compromised after AFLAC breach. Didn't we just say this? Didn't we just talk about password breaches? Well, guess what? AFLAC, the silly goose or the duck or whatever he is. I guess he's a duck. But he can't prevent your data from being compromised. The insurance company stopped a cybersecurity breach last week after noticing suspicious activity on its U.S. network, according to a Friday statement from AFLAC. The company said it was reviewing potentially impacted files containing health information, social security numbers, and other personal information tied to customers, beneficiaries, and other individuals associated with the U.S. business. The hack was shut down hours after it started on June 12th. Hours. You can get a lot of data in hours. That's a little sidebar I'm adding. None of AFLAC's systems were affected by ransomware, and all business remains operational, according to the statement. It's too early in the investigation to determine the total number of people impacted, AFLAC said. Any concerned individuals can contact the company by obtaining 2 years of free monitoring of credit or health information, as well as identity theft protection. Yes, we've all gotten those letters, haven't we? Anyway, so AFLAC has also been compromised. Just so you know, if you happen to be one of their clients, something you should check into. You'll probably get an email from them in a few days saying, gee, we're sorry, but your data has been compromised. It's now on the dark web, and what are you going to do about it? We'll give you a free credit report or a free identity check or whatever. That's about all they can do. So anyway, that's on WNG.org. And then 2 articles from RT. Trump doesn't rule out regime change in Iran. Live updates. Something we touched on earlier. U.S. President has called to make Iran great again after Washington joined Israel's ongoing bombing campaign. Make Iran great again. I think he means make Israel great again, because that's all it seems to be at this point. So there's a full article on RT on that. And then Moscow blasts U.S. redo of Iraqi weapons of mass destruction stunt. Where have we heard that before? With strikes on Iran, Washington has opened a Pandora's box, Russia's ambassador told the UN Security Council. Russia has sharply condemned the U.S. for its airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, calling the attacks irresponsible, provocative, and dangerous. Well, I mean, it is on behalf of Israel, after all. What else would it be? And warning they risk pushing the Middle East toward a large-scale war with potentially catastrophic nuclear consequences. Speaking at an emergency session of the UN Council on Sunday, Russian ambassador said and accused Washington of violating the UN Charter, international law, and the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Yes, but he doesn't understand it's okay when we do it, just not Russia or anyone else. He doesn't understand that little detail. The U.S. empire is above the law. In fact, we make the laws. He just doesn't understand. All right, and I mentioned this last week and just happened to see an article, a link to this UN document, official UN plan here for replacement migration. So if you doubted what I said, there's a logo. If you doubted what I said last week about the official policy from the UN to replace you and I with illegals, with hordes of barbarians from third world countries, this is the document. This is the document for you. It's 177 pages. Happy reading. I don't think there's even any pictures. Oh, well, you're kind of off the hook a little because it looks like some of it's in, what, Hebrew or Chinese or something? I don't know. Both. Yeah, there's a few pictures, I guess. Some charts. Anyway, there's quite a bit of info here going through and detailing the actual replacement migration procedure that they have in place and in plan for the United States right now. Population Division, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, United Nations Secretariat, Replacement Migration. I was looking to see actually when this document was put out. Let me see if it says. Let me go at the end here. I don't know. I don't see it. I'm sure it says somewhere. Usually it would be at the beginning or the end. They have lots of actuary tables here. So there's a lot of info here, but it is the document to which I alluded last week, and it does exist, and I will link to this in the Substack post. I just happened to find it. It was linked to from a Daily Crow article that I found earlier today. And I thought this was kind of wild. Check this one out. This is a series of tweets that some people have screenshotted from 2011, 12, and 13 from Donald John Trump. Curiously, he says in 2011, in order to get elected, Barack Obama will start a war with Iran. And then the next year he said Barack Obama will attack Iran in order to get reelected. And then in 2013, so once a year here, I predict that President Obama will at some point attack Iran in order to save face! And then later in 2013, remember that I predicted a long time ago that President Obama will attack Iran because of his inability to negotiate properly, not skilled. I think those words are kind of coming back to bite him somewhere. Turns out it's Donald Trump that's attacking Iran, not Barack Obama. No, actually, Barack Obama gave Iran pallets and pallets of U.S. dollars. So he actually paid them off, whereas Trump is bombing them. So take that into consideration here. And then here is the truth about what's happening. We have the Trojan horse, MAGA and MIGA, Make Israel Great Again. Inside the Trojan horse with Trump at the head here, being brought into where the Goyim are by the Jews. Yeah. Lovely. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. Just being silly around here. We're entitled. Pakistan recommends Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah. Well, that's how Obama got his Peace Prize. He was bombing countries back to the Stone Age, and then he got awarded a Peace Prize, so why shouldn't Trump? Islamabad has cited the U.S. president's role in ending the latest Pakistan-India escalation. Well, he did actually end that. Supposedly, he ended that without incident. I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, but no nuclear incident. And I think I have another article pulled up here on one of these mini tabs. We're about halfway through the tab show here, where I found another article that says that they regret now doing that. So I think this was really just the first part of the story, and then he goes about yesterday bombing Iran. So anyway, this was the first step in that process here. We mentioned Massey a couple times tonight. Rep. Thomas Massey says strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities are, quote, not constitutional. Yeah, well, that's true, but that doesn't keep them from doing it. I mean, Massey says that the airstrikes against Iran's nuclear sites was not constitutional. We have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites, Trump said. And then he just stated this is not constitutional in a tweet. Massey did. When 2 countries are bombing each other daily in a hot war and a third country joins in on the bombing, that is an act of war, Massey said in another post. I'm amazed at the mental gymnastics being undertaken by the neocons in D.C. and their social media bots to say that we aren't at war so that they can make war, he added. So I think that's pretty good. So yes, obviously Thomas Massey has to go now because he doesn't take Israel money. He's not at their beck and call. He doesn't do their bidding, and he disagrees with the war and with a lot of what Trump's doing. And again, he's a fiscal conservative, so he's got to be defeated in every way possible. Although, I don't know. I think the people of Kentucky are pretty, obviously they can cheat to win, I suppose, to defeat him by some other Republican who will take the AIPAC money. But it's interesting because that's where Rand Paul is from as well, same area in Kentucky. And I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully Massey will be able to stay in there. We need his voice of reason, if only to have a voice of reason in Congress. All right, let's see. Leo Hohmann article. There is a new one on his site. He generally publishes only to his Substack, but this one is on his site, America's Schizophrenic Foreign Domestic Policies and How It Empowers the Enemy Within. Not exactly sure what that's about, but that's, it looks to be about Muslims in Middle East and stuff. So that is on Leo's website, and then his Substack. Turkey is the wild card in the Middle East, and its leader just told us whose site it's on. What freedoms will be traded away in the fog of America's next big war? And wars are never about what we're told that they're about, and this one is no different. And then it's got General Wesley Clark right there, which we saw earlier in the video that I just played. So that is the 3 most recent posts on his Substack. It's pretty good. leohohmann.substack.com. He puts out good work. And then, let's see, on Natural News, I clicked on the link from the Natural News site over to this one, which, Mike Adams, I feel like, is on the side of peace here for the most part. War alert, Trump bombs Iran, setting off world war escalation scenario. Full analysis. So this is a Mike Adams post from earlier today. So that is a podcast. And then a couple more articles from this site. Maersk's Haifa pullout signals deepening crisis as Israel's economic lifelines falter. So check this out. Maersk, which is one of the, you've seen those shipping containers before, those huge ships. They've decided to halt Haifa port operations, Haifa meaning in Israel, because of the missile strikes. Maersk halts Haifa port operations, citing Iranian missile risks, deepening Israel's economic strains. So now they're not going to have all of the stuff that Maersk brings in, which could be pretty much anything and everything. Iran's strikes disrupt 98% of Israel's commerce. So it doesn't just affect Haifa, it affects the entire country. Again, the size of New Jersey, roughly. Israel is. Causing $200 million daily economic bleed. Intel, the chip company, halts multi-billion-dollar semiconductor plant in Israel due to supply chain disruptions. Eilat port cargo volume plummets 92% after blockades and attacks. Analysts propose repurposing stalled sites for military use while upholding international norms. So yeah, they're going to convert it into military use, but not if it gets hit, I would think. I wouldn't think that would work too well if it gets hit. Anyways, pretty wild, but yeah, Maersk has pulled out of supplying Haifa and therefore the rest of Israel with whatever is on all those shipping containers. That is not good news for them. One more from Natural News. If you want to have some sweet dreams, then eat some avocados. I have never heard this, so I just thought I would bring this up. I thought this was cool. Avocados for sweet dreams, ? Study reveals a surprising sleep benefit. You guys eat avocados? I personally like them a lot. A Penn State University study found that eating one avocado daily for 6 months, that's a lot of avocados, modestly improved sleep quality in adults with abdominal obesity, a benefit researchers didn't anticipate. Avocados contain monounsaturated fats, fiber, potassium, and sleep-supportive nutrients like magnesium and tryptophan, though the exact mechanisms remain unclear. Poor sleep is tied to higher risks of diabetes, heart disease, and cognitive decline, prompting the American Heart Association to include it in key health metrics. While avocados improved diet quality and blood lipids, they didn't significantly boost overall cardiovascular health scores in the study. Adding an avocado daily is an easy, flexible strategy to support sleep, but experts emphasize it's just one piece of a broader healthy lifestyle. For years, avocados have been praised for their heart-healthy fats, fiber, and essential nutrients, but a surprising new study suggests they may also hold the key to better sleep, a benefit that few saw coming. So how about that? Avocados for good sleep. I thought that was kind of neat. It's good news if you like your guacamole, like I do. But yeah, pretty cool. That's on naturalnews.com. And then let's see, a couple of Wine Press articles. World War III. U.S. deploys B-2 bombers and drops bunker busters on Iran nuclear facilities. Iran to retaliate. U.S. bases on alert. So that's kind of the next thing to watch, I guess. So yeah, you guys are hearing things first here a lot of times just because I'm looking at the news and perusing it and trying to figure out what's gonna happen next. And we were right for sure on the whole Iran attack and closing of Hormuz and all that stuff. We mentioned all that stuff last week. So we're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the game if you listen to this show. So this is another thing to watch for. U.S. bases on alert. This right here. So that's the next thing. Iran will probably hit a U.S. base and or a ship. Possibly a carrier. I think that's next. So they will retaliate. This is not going to go unanswered. And for you Indiana friends out there, you know who you are. Indiana becomes first state to implement interstate tolling. Are these backdoor green taxes? Indiana Governor Mike Braun recently signed into law that makes the state the first in the country to implement interstate tolling as the state seeks to phase out the gas tax in order to increase revenues to repair the state's eroding roads. Yes, but we get to have a war with Iran instead of fixing the roads in Indiana. That's where your tax dollars are actually going, to Israel. Why doesn't Israel come fix our roads? They have our money now. The concept has been under discussion for a few years, going back to former Governor Eric Holcomb. The study suggests tolling state interstates could bring in $40 billion in revenue over 2 decades. I'm looking to see how it's going to work. Let's see. There's a lot of links here. Is this an indirect way to quietly usher in green taxes as things become increasingly more expensive? So there's a video embedded here and a lot of links to various news articles and Indiana Gov articles and stuff. So, yeah, that's interesting. Green taxes. Could be that. So that's on Wine Press News. And then this is another Indiana one. Indiana sells out to big tech. Data centers and battery plants cause water crisis. The Indiana Department of Natural Resources is reportedly investigating several wells that have gone dry. They say they are looking into possible causes for that vanishing water. So they have the former governor here with the Amazon, Google, Meta, GM logos beside him. 2024, former Governor Holcomb helped pave the way for big tech companies, Amazon, Meta, GM/Samsung, etc., buying up large swaths of Hoosier land. Indiana is the Hoosier state, if you didn't know. I was one, I remember that. To build data centers, battery plants, and facilitate Bitcoin mining. Wow. 1 year later, aquifers and water wells are drying up. Yet, this trend is being blamed on climate change. On top of that, Amazon even admits that their project's results are a bit unknown and will serve as a test bed for future investment going forward. So Holcomb was a guest speaker at the WEF in Davos. So this guy right here is a Davos attendee. So I already don't like him. The augmented manufacturing experience was the discussion. The WEF and Holcomb's visions are now coming to fruition years later in the Hoosier state. So this guy is a globalist, apparently. Which, if you live in Indiana, maybe you know that. I'd never heard of this guy. So, because I don't live there, but that is pretty wild that the aquifers are drying up as a result of the data centers and the battery plants. So that is not good. Not good news for you folks out over there in Indiana. So anyway, that is on Substack. That's a Wine Press Substack article. Let's see here. Gateway Pundit, few articles that I pulled up. Border czar Tom Homan weighs in on potential sleeper cells from Iran operating in the U.S. So this is the thing to probably watch out for domestically here, versus being hit by a nuke or something and being hit by a missile. I don't think Iran actually has, even if they do have nukes, I don't think they have the ability to put them on a missile as a payload and send it here. I mean, they do have missiles that can reach all over the Middle East and into Europe, but this is the thing to worry about, I think, on our end, are these sleeper cells, thanks to the Biden administration, people that have all infiltrated this country. That's what Tom Homan's saying here. How many Iranians are in the country that are in sleeper cells trying to do bad to America right now, was the question. I said the last 4 years, my biggest concern was this open border, that was the biggest national security vulnerability that this country has ever seen, Homan said. I pulled numbers this morning just from CBP under Joe Biden. There was 1,272 nationals that Iran released into the country. Over 1,200 Iranian nationals. You compare that to the Trump administration's zero, right? Zero releases, Homan continued. Because of President Trump's leadership, we have the most secure border in my lifetime, the most secure border in the history of this nation, Homan continued. So I don't really disagree with that, but I do disagree with the Iranian war. That's not good. Anyway, so he's saying that there's 1,272 Iranian nationals, but it doesn't even take that to pull off some sort of a domestic sleeper cell, quote unquote, operation, because it could be a deep state operation, and then they blame Iran. Because remember, it's not just Russia anymore. Now it's going to be Iran will be the bad guy and everything. So we'll just have to watch. And then this is the speech that we watched earlier. This is actually the second part of the story about the Pakistan situation. Just in, nuclear-armed Pakistan condemns U.S.'s Iranian strikes after recommending Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. So this is the second part of that story that I mentioned a little bit ago. I knew it was on one of my other tabs here. So they changed their mind. It says the government of Pakistan has condemned the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, expressing fear of possible further escalation of tensions in the region. So they're taking it back. So they recommended Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize until he started bombing Iran, and now they said, nope, we're not going to support his winning the Peace Prize. Did you guys know that the Nobel Peace Prize was invented by the guy who invented dynamite? You guys know that? Yeah, he literally invented dynamite and decided in order to help prevent the destruction that dynamite causes, he was going to come up with a Peace Prize. Alfred Nobel. Anyway, this article is saying this comes less than 48 hours after Pakistan announced that they would formally recommend President Trump for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize. So they've changed their mind. Trump, you don't get the Peace Prize. Even though war was apparently, at this point, prevented between India and Pakistan. We'll see. I'm not convinced it will stay that way because those people really hate each other. Man. All right, this is a mess. I don't know if you guys saw this. This was horrifying. Hot air balloon with 21 people on board in Brazil erupts in flames. Passengers seen falling from the sky. Did you guys see this? I saw this trending on Twitter, I guess it was, a day or two ago on X. And, yeah, 21st. So, hot air balloon in Brazil's Santa Catarina state was captured on video as it caught fire and plunged from the sky. The burner appears to have caught fire and spread to the basket, causing the balloon to deflate. The basket separated from the balloon and plummeted as the balloon slowly guided down over what looks like a construction site. Yeah, the people who were filming it were at a construction site. We don't know where it hit. So the good news is there is good news in that not everyone was killed. 21 passengers were on board, and you see this. We're going to watch this. You see this, and you're like, there is no way anyone lived. But it says here, this is a post from the governor of this, state in Brazil, announced that 8 were killed and 13 survived. 21 people on board, 8 fatalities, 13 survivors. So what's amazing is that there can be any survivors. So it's just unbelievable. So here it is. Well, let's watch it. It's only just a few seconds. And note, you can see someone falling. I don't know if they jumped or what, but it reminds me of 9/11 when we had people jumping out of the buildings to avoid the flames. I don't know. It's really sad.
Meu Deus do céu. Jesus Cristo.
That is crazy. Let me back it up. So you can see, I'll just play this. You can see this is a person falling right here. And then this is the main unit here falling on fire all the way down, hundreds of feet. And 8 people were killed, but 13 lived. So that's amazing. Praise God that anyone lived, because I saw that and I'm like, man, there is no way that anyone lived. And there were 13 out of 21. That's amazing. So I guess probably 7 that were in the actual unit that's on fire there in the basket. 7, I guess, in that unit, in that basket died, because you have the one guy or person that fell out or jumped. Man, so sad, but wow, that's crazy. All right, so we're done with the doom here for just a second. We'll have a doom break. I know Miss Emily would appreciate that. This is something I'm going to play for you. I know you probably haven't seen this, and you're going to thank me for it because it's so cool. So it says Tolkien couldn't have written it better. So this is American exceptionalism coming in many forms. So this is not something you would necessarily think is American exceptionalism, but I do think this is something that would qualify.
It come on a Monday. The envelope bore no mercy, no smile, only that cruel whirling sun of TXU. A logo that shines not with hope, but with consequence. As if to say, you danced, now pay. I broke the seal back like I was peeling back the bandage on a wound I'd done give myself, and there it was. $696.27.
It's his electric bill.
Now, I recall a time not too long ago when a man could just sleep with just a fan on. Box fan in the window, sheets damp with his own resolve. But then came August. August, that devil in cargo shorts. She comes with air so thick you can taste the mosquitoes before they bite you. And I, a weak and weary creature, I touched the thermostat, dropped her down to 71, the sin of comfort. I knew what I was doing. Each degree a betrayal, each hour a soft lie told in Freon, but I pressed on. A man cannot sweat through 3 showers a day and still hold his head high at the HEB. Now I'm shackled, betrayed and bound by wattage and poor choices, and yet I will do it again, for I have known the chill, and I will not go back.
I will not go back. Yeah, I like that. August is the devil in cargo shorts or whatever he said. That was hilarious. Anyway, yeah, he's just talking about getting his electric bill and everything that ensued. Texas comedian reads his electric bill like a Faulkner novel. Tolkien couldn't have written it better. I thought that was pretty cool. It was very funny. That was a good one. All right, and then this one, kind of a strange story. It's raining cats, dogs, and miniature Death Stars in Indiana. So we're back to Indiana again. Yeah, miniature Death Stars. Severe weather can get pretty crazy in Midwestern summers, but no matter how hard it rains, having giant metal spheres fall from the sky is unlikely, or one would think. But that is what happened this week in an Indianapolis neighborhood. The storms that hit Indianapolis this afternoon sent a radome, R-A-D-O-M-E, a radome, flying and on to a neighborhood street. A radome protects radar systems or antennas from the weather. Looks like wherever this came from will need a new one. It does look like the Death Star, a tiny one. Definitely looks familiar. Obi-Wan says, "That's no moon." Despite its bizarre appearance, the huge ball was not a miniature Death Star and was later identified as a radome, which is a cover used to protect antennas and radar equipment from inclement weather. Yeah, it could be that. It could be a radome. I mean, you're welcome to believe that's what it is. Personally, I think it's just a piece falling from the rafters like the Truman Show. Because we're part of the Truman Show, aren't we? It's probably a piece of the lighting system falling down. That's what I think. Not the Death Star. No, I'm just joking. But that's how not to be. Thought that was pretty wild. Strange things are definitely happening. Russia and North Korea say they will supply Iran with nukes. Strait of Hormuz blockade approval, and DHS warns of terror attacks as Michigan church shot up by a gunman. Yeah, that happened earlier today. There was a Michigan church that was shot up, and luckily some of the good guys actually had guns there and took him out. Let's see here. I guess it's just his headlines. So that is some of the news here on InfoWars. One of the top stories here, top headlines. DHS issues National Terrorism Advisory System bulletin warning of terror attacks amid USA joining Israel-Iran conflict. And then what I mentioned earlier, Tom Homan concerned about sleeper cells. So I definitely think that is the next concern we got to watch out for. So I would say, at least for a while, maybe avoid large gatherings. Just because, man, you don't know. Because, I don't know. I don't necessarily even think that it would be an Iranian or whatever they're going to blame it on. I do think that they will use that to false flag a situation like a 9/11 kind of thing, where they hurt or kill a bunch of people, and then off we are going into war now because of that. So, because that's exactly what galvanized the U.S. population when 9/11 happened, didn't it? So anyway, there is quite a bit of info here on that article. Breaking: Trump admits Iran strikes a regime change operation after U.S. bombed 3 nuclear sites yesterday. Yeah, regime change is now what they're all saying. But at first, they didn't say it was regime change. No, not at all. We just want to keep the current people in there, the Ayatollah and so forth, the mullahs. But I don't think that's true. They want to put their own people in, just like they have done so many other times. And this is one I didn't really remember. I did see this movie, Predictive Programming. Trump's Iran strikes mirror the plot of Top Gun Maverick. Uncanny similarities between film and recent U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities have left people baffled. So another case of predictive programming, maybe? I don't know. Saturday's historic U.S. strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. I don't think I'd call them historic U.S. strikes. I don't think I would call it historic. I would call them problematic and very sad. Were eerily similar to a scenario that unfolded in the 2022 hit film Top Gun Maverick. President Trump's Operation Midnight attack was unbelievably identical to the plot of the Oscar-nominated movie. Former U.S. Department of State official Mike Benz posted a viral video breaking down scenes from the movie and comparing them to what took place in Iran on Saturday. The film focused on a uranium enrichment facility located deep underground that could only be reached with U.S. bunker buster bombs, which were used to strike Iran's Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan nuclear sites. So here is the here's the video. We're living through the exact plot of Top Gun Maverick, scene for scene. And the implications are more than a little bit concerning for the higher need to keep the MAGA coalition together. The exact number of bombers that were used in the film, as in reality, and the nuclear sites targeted in the movie were not a direct threat to the U.S., but to an ally in the region. Oh, gee, I wonder who that ally could be. Who could it be? It is clearly a reference to Israel, and it's clearly a reference to the Fordo nuclear enrichment plant, Benz said. The official WikiLeaks X account wrote Sunday that Hollywood scriptwriters who say they are, quote, Jewish, have been planting the mental seeds for war with Iran for years, including Top Gun Maverick, Homeland 24, and the DreamWorks film on Julian Assange called The Fifth Estate. So, yes, we know this. It's called predictive programming. Yeah, WikiLeaks post was accompanied by a 2008 LA Times article titled, Who Runs Hollywood? Come on. That detailed the large Jewish presence in Tinseltown and stated that Jews totally run Hollywood. Many prominent political figures also commented on the bizarre similarities between the movie and the Trump administration's military operation. So I would play this, except I'm guessing there are going to be movie clips in it, and that will be problematic for my live stream. I'm afraid it'll shut it down. But you guys can go check this out. It's a Mike Benz tweet here on this InfoWars article called Predictive Programming. So you guys can check it out if you want. But yeah, I didn't know that there were similarities there between the two movies, but that makes sense. Israel wants their war. They've been predictively programming us for a long time, haven't they? Even by the exact details of what could happen. Trump accomplishes nothing by bombing Iran while he endangers U.S. troops and citizens. Reactions to the U.S. bombing of Iran, streets of Iran, and streets of Israel. So yeah, definite difference there. So this is a Brian Shohavy article, who is the main writer for Health Impact News, but Vaccine Impact as well. So vaccineimpact.com, and then one more article, same guy, on same site, vaccineimpact.com. Kroger supermarket chain to close 60 stores across the U.S. The retail collapse has begun. 60 Krogers are closing across the U.S. So that's crazy. And we haven't even hit the high oil prices from the start of this war. So, man. It says, with the apparent beginning of World War III and the conflict between Israel and Iran dominating the news headlines this past week, many other significant news stories have seemingly flown under the radar of both corporate and alternative news sites this past week. On Friday, during a 2025 first quarter sales report, Kroger announced that it's planning on closing 60 stores nationwide in the U.S. during the next 18 months. Kroger is one of the largest grocery store chains in the U.S. with 2,731 stores, employing 409,000 people. So 60 stores is 2% of its locations. That's crazy. The reason that they don't want to say is why, because it is politically incorrect to do so. Because if you blame it on the tariffs or the rapidly declining farm labor due to the ICE actions, then Trump will humiliate you publicly, as he's done to other major retailers such as Apple and Amazon. So Vaccine Impact does not care for Trump one bit. So if you haven't noticed that, but that's what they're blaming, and that could be what's going on. Many U.S. farmers are struggling because ICE is deporting much of their farm labor. Not only are these deportations affecting farm productions, they're taking dollars out of the economy from these laborers who spend what they earn, and grocery stores are going to feel the major brunt of this reduction of spending in the economy. All right, and then I didn't pull up any articles, I guess, on this site, but you can imagine it's all rah-rah Trump and rah-rah war with Iran. That is Israel's 365 News. Won't bother with that one tonight. Geoengineeringwatch.org. This week we have the first show of summer here. GAN, Global Alert News. Rare summer winter storm You hear about the winter storm that's going to be happening in Montana? Rare summer winter storm to strike with 2 feet of snow. Yeah, that's going to be in Montana, parts of Montana. Record-shattering heat wave hitting wide swath of the United States. A winter storm with 2 feet of snow and record-shattering heat all within the borders of the U.S., all at the same time. Welcome to climate engineering. The weather makers are waging weather warfare around the world in lockstep with controller-orchestrated kinetic warfare. Buckle up, we are in for a ride. So we have the full show and then the 90-second alert that we put out earlier this morning, actually. So they're both embedded here on this page. Engineering Summer Snow is the name of this one. June 21st. So make sure you check that out if you didn't already. Dane told me he sent me the file to do the show here, and because I do the editing for this show and mastering and put it all together for him, and he said that he sent another show that was just one long angry rant, as he called it, an angry rant. I said, no, it wasn't angry at all. It didn't sound angry. He said, I'm always angry. So I thought that was funny. All right, and then the scheduled weather for the next date set of dates here, June 28th through July 2nd. So coming up, starting in 5 days. June 28th through July 2nd is nothing but hot. So if you live in the east or southeast, it's going to be above normal. There's no normal anymore, so they say this is near normal. I don't know. So you don't really have the split down the center this time with the hot side hot and the cool side cool. I always say that. But pretty much above temperatures across the U.S. So they must not be able to get the moisture that they need to chemically ice nucleate. Because that's what they typically will do. They'll bring in moisture from the Gulf in particular and cool down the eastern half of the U.S. using that moisture and chemical ice nucleation processes. They do it all the time. They've been doing it for years and years and years. Been watching it and documenting it on this show. Diamond Report on Twitter. So if you're not already following and you happen to be on Twitter/X, please follow along. That would be really helpful and very cool. I put up a few clips of last week's show. Actually, I guess there's only one on here. I put up 2, though, on YouTube. I just didn't remember to put it on X, I guess. But anyway, we have some clips of last week's show on here, and then this is some of the people, massive millions of people fleeing Tehran when Trump put his tweet out on, or his post out on Truth Social. Could you imagine having that sort of influence where you say something on a media platform like this, and then now you have millions of people jumping in their cars, driving to save their lives? Isn't that crazy? Just to even comprehend that. I mean, I wouldn't want that kind of power. I'm just saying, could you imagine that anyone does? But Trump does. Look at all this. This traffic jam is his fault, literally, for the Truth Social post that he did. Oh, I thought this was good. I didn't vote for Trump for him to start World War III at the behest of Israel. End this insanity now. Well said. I didn't vote for you to start World War III at the behest of Israel. Hell. So, yeah, that's true. I meant to mention this last week. I think I got sidetracked with this crazy video that we, where is it? This video here that we talked about and showed last week with the crazy protester. But this is actually really interesting. Look at this. So it's probably kind of hard to read, but this is the claims of Bibi here. Here are all the times that Bibi Netanyahu has warned us about how close Iran is to having a nuke. Okay, so this is documented here going back only as far as 1992. I think it goes back to 1984. I've seen some screenshots. I think we showed one last week of a Bibi quote from 1984 where he said they're only 2 weeks away from getting nukes or whatever. So they're always only 2 weeks away. So this is one post here. This is from Ian Carroll from his Twitter X account. So here's all the times that Netanyahu has warned us about how close Iran is to having a nuke. So in 1992, he said Iran is 3 to 5 years from having a nuke. 3 to 5 years. And in 1993, he said Iran pursuing nuclear weapons and is close to capability. So that was a year later. Now, 2 years after that, 1995, Iran is 3 to 5 years away from having a nuke. In 1996, Iran's nuclear acquisition could be catastrophic. Deadline extremely close. That was in 1996. So now we're 4 years on from that first one. Still in the range of 3 to 5 years, though. 2003 is the next one on here. Iran's nuclear program is a global threat. Okay. So given a year or two there. Predicted by 2004 or 5. This was in 2003. It's a global threat. 2004, Iran aggressively was pursuing nuclear weapons. 2005, Iran's nuclear ambitions must be stopped. He said another 1 to 2 years. So it's I guess it wasn't always 2 weeks, but he's been saying this. 1992, 1993, 1995, 1996, 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then jumps to 21, 22, 23, 24, and now 25. Iran is just days away from enriching uranium for a bomb. Days away. That was earlier this year. So, way to go, Bibi. No one believes you. You lying piece of scum. And he is. Guns don't kill people. Planned Parenthood kills people. Little people. Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting one. And then this one, this kind of goes back to the no kings thing. I found this and thought this was kind of fun. Yeah, I know, it's another fat joke, but we are not above or below, I guess, doing fat jokes on this show. We just aren't. And this is today's fat joke, except Burger King. So yeah, no kings except Burger King, says the person with the purple hair. And isn't the 4th of July the original No Kings Day? Kermit says. Looking to see what else. Oh yeah, we've covered the rest of these, I think. Oh, I mentioned the Pam Bondi in action figure last week, but I didn't show it. I forgot because we got sidetracked with that video. But if you wanted to see the Pam Bondi in action figure, there she is with all of her stacks of Epstein files on her desk, but her Fox Media bumper sticker. It's on my desk. Pretty wild. Democrats, no kings, we follow democracy. Also Democrats, appointed Kamala with no primary. Yeah, so anyway, that is the Diamond Report on X. I always try and find fun stuff to tweet and to mention on there. So follow along there if you want. Just look it up. Diamond Report on X, or it's just the Diamond RPRT, which I've mentioned before. So that is on my Twitter/X page. And then please join my Substack. Totally free, and you can drop your email address in there, hit subscribe, and it takes you to this page, which has the links to the various shows that would be from last week's show in particular. It's going to be in the one in the upper left corner here. That's the links from last week's show. So if you click this, it will give you pretty much all the links to everything from last week's show. Not only all of the articles I talked about, but also the final version of this show. So this is the YouTube safe version where I've removed all of the VAXX information where you won't be subjected to it on YouTube because the censors don't like that. But the rest of it here is, I guess, let's see. Yeah, BitChute, Rumble, Brighteon, Facebook video links. So this is the full show from last week. And then this is the podcast from last week on Apple and Spotify. So those are there. And then here are the store items that you could peruse if you want to help out the show and what we're doing here on this show. And then here are the article links from last week's show. So you can see I covered a lot of ground last week. Just goes on and on. So anyway, that is the Substack. That's kind of what it looks like. You'll get that in your inbox if you're on the list. You don't have to sign up, though, to get it. You can just go to diamondist.substack.com and access it that way. If you don't want to be on the list, that's fine. It's totally free. Free to a good home. And then, let's see. Subscribestar is a really good way to help the show if you want to support what I'm doing here. And I did lose a subscriber this week. I hate to say it, but I did. So we're now down to 15 from 16. So we are officially going backwards, just like my YouTube count, my YouTube subscriber count. I get to a certain point and then I just start working backwards. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. That's just what happens. And thank you guys for being here and supporting this show and hanging out with me for a little bit. I guess we could wrap it up tonight. We have the Substack and the Subscribe Star. That's the main two things I wanted to bring to your attention, just in case you do happen to want to support what I'm doing. It would be very helpful. I hate losing subscribers because I never know if it's something that I did or if it's just, somebody's payment just failed or whatever. But anyway, yeah, help me out. And you can join the Subscribe Star for starting at $5 a month. You won't miss $5 a month, will you? Well, you might, but if you do, don't worry about it. But if you can afford it, it is there, and that is an option. There are other options with other goodies involved, other features involved. So take a look at that if you want. The link's in the upper right corner up there in the black box. Subscribestar.com/Diamond Disc. So that is where that is if you guys want to support what I'm doing. And of course, there's the store with all of the goodies. And then please subscribe if you're not already. On the YouTube channel, we're up to 940 now. So we've made it officially up about, 20 from where we were at the beginning of the year, which I guess that's a plus. I'm going forwards now on YouTube, little by little. But I say that, and I'll probably be backwards next week. Anyway, that is on my YouTube channel on Take It to the Lord in Prayer End Times Dates. And then Rumble and all of the other channels, I'm just Diamond Disc on there. So DIAMONDISC, which is my company name. That's what that is. So I'm pretty much that on most social media platforms. If you want to look me up, I would appreciate the follow. And, Rumble's a good one, obviously. BitChute and Brighteon. And then Band. On Band, though, it's just called the Diamond Report. So if you're on Band or want to get on Band, to join the group, it's free. You can just look up the Diamond Report, or you can go to the link. It's not in chat because I think Emily's driving, but yeah, she's still driving. So it's band.us/@the-Diamond-Report. I think I'm going by memory here, and that's what it is. So yeah, you can look it up though too. You can do a search on there, but band.us, it's a really good non-censoring social media platform, kind of like Facebook, only better, I think, just because they don't censor your content at all. It's for groups. It's really for groups more than individuals. So it's a good one, and it is free to use, obviously, and you can join it and look us up. Diamond Report, we've got almost 100 people in our group, and we just get on there and share information and funny things, and sometimes stuff on there will end up making the show here, so it just depends on what you want to post, but you're welcome to post things, and you can message people in there, but I will just want to remind you guys, it's not a dating site. It's not a dating site. No dating. And then hello to the folks over in Rumble. Got a couple people over there said hello. So VTech and Turtle both say hello over there. So thank you guys for being here. Had quite a few people watching on Rumble earlier, so that's good. All right, and then I wanted to mention too, I think my live streaming software, I just kind of trying to remember and tell you guys each week. The live streaming software that I'm using to put this show out is going to a paid platform, which is fine, except the free version that will be available will no longer let me stream to two different things at one time, two different streams. Because right now, we're live streaming to Rumble and to YouTube concurrently. So that's how I do this show. I've been doing it that way for a long time. The live stream software is going to a paid situation. So to get multi-streams, which means more than one, you have to subscribe and pay the fee. I don't know what the fee is yet. I will let you guys know when I find out. But if you guys want to continue supporting the show, I'm probably going to have somebody maybe step up and help me out with the monthly payments a little bit, just because everything's out of pocket at this point for me. So I appreciate you guys being here a lot. I mean, I love you guys being here, and we always talk about, saying prayers for each other and stuff like that in the band group, and yeah, that's definitely the way to go. But things cost money, unfortunately, and that's the way it works. It's the way the world works. And the subscription thing, I don't really have the numbers on that yet, but I do know that they are going to start charging for anything more than one stream. So we'll obviously keep the YouTube one going because most people are on there. So the people over on Rumble, I don't want to lose you guys. So that is that's coming up, I think, in July, maybe in a couple weeks. I want to say around the 7th, something like that. I'll have to let you guys know. So the next show will be next Sunday, the 29th at 10 p.m. So we have, looks like maybe 2 more shows before that kicks in. The 29th and then July 6th. I don't want to drop the Rumble stream, so I'm just kind of letting you guys know that now, so that if you guys want to help me out, that's a good way to do it. You can do that through Subscribestar or through Substack. So anyway, I'll just put that bug in your ear, as they say, because I do know that's coming, and like anything else it's a business expense, and unfortunately they're going to start charging me, which means I have to recoup that somehow. Anyways, thank you guys for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I guess we can wrap it up and see you guys next week. It will be, again, the 29th, starting at 10 p.m. Central Time. So that is what we're going to do next week, and hope you guys have a blessed week this week. Hope you guys have had a good week this past week, and we will do it all again next week. So love you all, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Take care, you guys.